In the vast and ancient empire of the Altans, there lies a secret known only to a select few among our people. Some are born with a unique gift, or curse, depending on who you ask. We call them the Veiled Watchers, those who can glimpse into the hidden realms that coexist with our own. These realms are inhabited by the shades, ethereal echoes of the past, remnants of those who once lived and have since passed on. The existence of the Veiled Watchers is a closely guarded secret. Only the ruling council and a handful of trusted advisors are aware of their true nature. Even the Watchers themselves are often unaware of their abilities until they manifest. The council has long debated whether these abilities are a blessing or a threat, but they have always agreed on one thing: the truth must remain hidden. The shades that the Watchers can perceive are not mere ghosts. They are shaped and powered by the collective memories and beliefs of the living. A tyrant remembered with fear and hatred will appear as a monstrous, twisted figure, while a beloved leader might manifest as a figure of light and warmth. These shades are drawn to places of significance, where they lived, where they died, or where their memories are strongest. Recently, the Althian Empire made first contact with a species known as the Novar. They are a curious and ambitious race, relatively new to the galactic stage, yet their rapid expansion and technological advancements have caught the attention of many. As with all new species, the Althians approached cautiously, sending emissaries and diplomats to observe and learn before formal relations were established. One of these emissaries was Talora, a young Veiled Watcher who had been trained in the arts of diplomacy and subterfuge. Her task was to gather intelligence on the Novar while keeping her true nature hidden. Upon her arrival in the Novar system, she immediately sensed something was different. The shades here were unlike any she had encountered before. They were more vibrant, more alive. As she toured the Novar colonies, Talora could feel the presence of these shades everywhere. They whispered to her, not in the mournful tones of the past, but with a vitality that made her question whether they were truly dead. The Novar themselves seemed unaware of these entities, carrying on with their lives as if nothing was amiss, but Talora knew better. Something was stirring in the shadows of their worlds. Her investigations led her to a remote outpost on the edge of Novar space. It was an unremarkable station orbiting a barren moon, but the moment she arrived, Talora felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. The station was haunted by a powerful shade, one that radiated both sorrow and resolve. She knew she had to find it. Following the trail of the shade, Talora made her way to the station's observation deck. There, floating in the void, she saw it, a massive starship, ancient and battle-scarred, yet shimmering with an otherworldly light. The ship was a relic of the Novar's early spacefaring days, a vessel that had been lost to history. Its name was barely visible on the hull, NSS Resolute. Talora could sense the presence of the crew aboard the ship, their spirits bound to the vessel by a powerful sense of duty. They had been on a mission of great importance when disaster struck, and they had never completed their task. Now, centuries later, they continued to patrol the void, ever vigilant, ever loyal. She knew she had to make contact with the Novar about this discovery, but how could she explain something they couldn't see? Gathering her courage, Talora approached the Novar ambassador, carefully choosing her words. She spoke of old legends, of ships that refused to rest, and of the importance of remembering the past. To her surprise, the ambassador did not dismiss her. Instead, he listened intently, a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. He revealed that the Novar had stories of the Resolute, tales passed down through generations, but they had always been considered just that, stories. The idea that the ship might still be out there, watching over them, brought a mixture of pride and sorrow to his face. As Talora prepared to depart the station, she took one last look at the Resolute. She knew its mission was not yet over, and perhaps it never would be. The ship and its crew were bound to the Novar by a connection that transcended life and death, a connection that even the Veiled Watchers could barely comprehend. And so, the Altans left the Novar to their mysteries, knowing that some secrets are better left undisturbed. But Talora would never forget the Resolute and the hauntingly beautiful shade that guided it through the endless night. Chapter 2. Talora couldn't shake the image of the NSS Resolute from her mind, even after returning to the Althian capital. The memory of the ship and its ghostly crew lingered like a shadow in her thoughts. She had reported her findings to the ruling council, as was her duty, but their response was one of cautious dismissal. The Novar were still a new and unpredictable factor in the galaxy, and the council was reluctant to get involved in what they considered a mere legend. But Talora knew better. She had felt the power of the Resolute, and she understood the deep connection between the ship and the Novar people. The council's decision frustrated her, but she also knew she could not act without their blessing. Her status as a Veiled Watcher gave her unique privileges, but it also bound her to the strictest of oaths. Weeks passed, and Talora resumed her duties, though her heart was no longer in them. She continued to study the shades within the Althian Empire, cataloging their presence and interactions. Yet despite her best efforts, she couldn't ignore the gnawing sense that something was amiss. The feeling only intensified when she began to notice strange occurrences in her observations. Shades that should have been dormant were suddenly restless, their energy levels fluctuating wildly. One evening, as Talora was deep in meditation, a vision seized her. She found herself aboard the Resolute, standing in its dimly lit corridors. The air was thick with the presence of the ship's crew, their forms barely visible but unmistakably there. They were trying to communicate with her, though their voices were muted, as if coming from a great distance. Talora reached out with her mind, attempting to bridge the gap between them. The shades responded eagerly, their thoughts flooding her consciousness. It was overwhelming, but amidst the chaos, a single message became clear: they were not alone. The realization jolted her back to reality. The Novar Resolute was not the only ship patrolling the void. There were others, other ships, other crews, all lost in space and time, yet bound by a common mission. But what was that mission, and why was it so vital that these spirits could not find peace? Determined to uncover the truth, Talora decided to take a risk. She knew of one person who might be able to help, though seeking his aid would be dangerous. His name was Kor, a renegade watcher who had been exiled for delving too deeply into the mysteries of the Shades. He had always believed that the Shades were not mere echoes of the past, but something far more significant. Talora found Kor living on the outskirts of a decaying starport, far from the influence of the Althean Council. His dwelling was cluttered with ancient artifacts and forbidden tomes, relics from his years of research. When she told him about the Resolute and the vision she had received, Kor's eyes lit up with a mix of excitement and dread. "You've stumbled upon something far greater than you realize," he said, his voice trembling with barely contained emotion. "The Shades are not just memories, Talora. They are guardians, protectors of the balance. And these ships you've seen, they are the enforcers of that balance." Kor explained that long ago, when the galaxy was young, there had been a great war between two ancient civilizations. The conflict had nearly destroyed all life, and in the aftermath, a pact was made, a pact to maintain the balance between life and death, order and chaos. The ships, like the Resolute, were constructed to enforce this pact, crewed by those who had given their lives to protect the galaxy. "But something is wrong," Kor continued, his expression darkening. "The balance is being threatened, and the Shades are mobilizing. The fact that you were contacted means they need help, our help." Talora was stunned. This was beyond anything she had imagined. The implications were staggering. If the balance was indeed at risk, then the entire galaxy could be in danger. But why had the Novar been drawn into this? What role did they play in the grand scheme of things? "There's only one way to find out," Kor said, as if reading her thoughts. "We need to go to the source. We need to find the heart of the balance, where it all began." Despite her reservations, Talora knew he was right. She couldn't ignore the call of the Resolute, ignore the responsibility that came with being a veiled watcher. She agreed to accompany Kor on his quest, knowing full well that it might cost them everything. Together, they prepared for the journey ahead, gathering supplies and making the necessary arrangements. Kor had access to old star charts, forgotten by most but still accurate, that could lead them to the hidden places in the galaxy where the balance was maintained. They would travel in secrecy, avoiding the watchful eyes of the Althean Council and any other powers that might seek to stop them. As they departed on their perilous voyage, Talora couldn't help but glance back at